All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go over the Unit 2 test remediation. Um, for the most missed questions, actually number 3 was the first most missed. However, I included number 2 because they kind of piggybacked off of one another. So if you review question 2, it says, what is the central idea in the story Bulgogi about the children of immigrants? Okay, so considering the children of immigrants and what message was revealed or relayed, D is the correct answer. They're pulled between traditions of their parents' culture and the changes required by a new culture. So if we look at that terminology, culture, and think about what's happening in the story, just to recall, quick summary is that we have the mother who is trying to figure out her way of life as she would like it to be. And she decides that she wants to open up a Korean barbecue food truck, right? She has a son, and her mom was the one who really enforced her Korean culture on her by having her do those things that were important to the culture, like violin lessons and learning Korean and, becoming a lawyer even. So as she was pushed and forced to do those things, she realized that wasn't really who she was. And when her mom passed, she decided to, you know, take actions on what she wanted for herself. And so if we look at that fact that she was pulled between those traditions, she realizes then, if we look at 3, our detail, that she doesn't want her son to have to be forced into those things like she was. Yes, it's a new generation, but because she is our main character that is experiencing both sides, being a child and also a mother, she's realizing that with this, she does not want her son to be forced into, the practices unless he wants to. So in A, still she was determined not to force Sojun to do things her mother had forced her. He wouldn't have to take violin lessons, nor would he have to learn Korean. Okay. And B and C, if you're looking for process of elimination, B is just talking about what she had to do as a child, okay, in her position, but it's not really related to the central idea in question 2, right? There's no real pull there between. And then C is more so her, so I'll eliminate B. C is more so how she is as an American in this culture and what she likes to do. Okay, so it's not showing any pulling between traditions. D is what I think a lot of, those of you that got it wrong selected. And I can see where you're coming from. It says she was American just as much as she was Korean. And even though her mother wouldn't have wanted her to, starting the food truck was her way of honoring her mother. So this is where she takes it upon herself to show that tradition and culture. But the key word as far as pulled between traditions of parents' culture and changes required, A is the detail that supports it best. Okay. All right, let's look at our next most missed question, which came from our next. It's not letting me switch our slide here. Maybe if I exit the drawing. That's continuing now. I apologize for that. So question 6 was our next most missed question, and this one was from the passage about Michelle and her situation. She, just to recap, she was had to have internship, and she ended up at a nursing home. She struggled a little bit with that concept. That's not originally where she wanted to go. However, she finds that she is pretty successful with one of the more challenging residents there. And so she is able to connect with and relate with this man whom others struggle with. And so this question is asking which statements help to develop the theme that sometimes people are not always what they appear to be. So if we look at our options, and there's 3 correct answers here. Erkan brightens into a smile when Michelle enters the room. And as you read the story, you realize that she does change how he feels about things, and he recognizes her as someone he can trust. That's not misleading. He does get happy when she enters the room. So we could eliminate that because it doesn't apply to people are not always what they appear to be. Now, you could argue and say, well, if we are an outsider, we might think that, he is not really a friendly, kind person because we've seen, maybe you've seen other things going on. But in this case, because we have the evidence that we do have is the fact that he sees her and she brings him joy, that is his true feelings, right? He's not playing or pretending. B, Michelle wears a football jersey and jeans to her internship at the nursing home. And when you look at someone who is in more casual wear, but they're going to a place of profession, it does appear to be that she doesn't maybe care about it or, and that's just how people perceive things. So people are not what they appear to be. If you take a look at some of the evidence here, even though she is dressed like that, she is able to make him feel, I'd say, connected and related to. And so he was not, like it says here, looking like a stricken animal. Okay. And then C, Erkan is out of control and kicks and rants at the nursing staff. Well, when he is in his moments where his head is, it seems like a form of dementia in a way, the way they describe it. So in his head, he thinks other things are happening. And that's not really true to who he is as he is ranting and kicking. While he's doing that, he seems to have a reason or explanation for it, although people don't connect to it because it's in his head only. And so where it says down here, he lives in his own world, this is what the managing nurse explains. That's why he is kicking and ranting. It's not necessarily who he actually is, okay? He just needs to be understood. D, Erkan immigrated to the United States and grew up in Scranton, PA. Well, shout out to PA, but that's not relevant to what he appears to be or how he doesn't appear to be. And then E, Michelle is a young high school girl and feels that everyone mistrusts her due to her youth. And that's where she gets to feel that connection almost. She feels sorry for Erkan and that bad reputation because she's also experienced that concept of mistrust. So it says, she had felt like, I'm going to try and underline without crossing everything out. Everyone mistrusted her, okay? So therefore, then she starts to understand how Erkan must feel, okay? So those are our three statements that help to develop that theme. And then our last two questions came from the hang on, let me switch. All right, our last two questions came from the passage that had to do with the fact that people will pay various prices for goods, and the manufacturers kind of determine based on what a consumer is willing to pay, that determines on what they're going to charge for their products. And sometimes products can be different places, different locations, and different times. And it just explained a little bit about how that process takes place and gave an example specifically in Germany about their hoses. So that one I thought was kind of interesting. If we take a look, 13 says, which sentences from the passage develop the central idea that prices vary over time as well as from place to place? Well, our key component is over time and place to place. So you have to have support that includes both of those in the same statement. So A, as more people gain internet access, so that's over time, they're researching item prices in other countries, place to place. B, even with the different tax costs, however, sometimes the difference in price between two places is hard to explain. This is only referring to place to place. C, if you go to a store in the United States to buy a garden hose, the prices will also vary, but the parts will probably come attached. That's only focused on in the moment and at one place. Okay, it's not relevant to overtime and place to place. In the United States, states need to make money to help pay for the services they provide. Again, simple statement talking about one location. E, slowly but surely. Again, that's over time, right? The demand for cheaper garden hoses is spreading throughout Germany, and the phrase getting hosed no longer has two meanings. Okay, so throughout Germany would be place to place, and we have this slowly but surely for our over time. So again, just paying attention to the details that are provided in the question to help you to answer your, select the best and correct answers.